Good morning, everybody, and welcome back to another exciting edition of Beyond the Game. Beyond the Game brought to you by Schutte Excavating, Gillenhow Funeral Home, Batesville Chrysler Dodge Jeep, Buyride Auto, Decatur County Recycling, and Russ Hubler Ford. Tom Fleming, Ryan Higginbotham, Jason Simpson live here in studio, and not via satellite, Tom, or Zoom, or Google Meet, or what was the other one that we said? I've already forgotten it.
Zoom.
Skype.
Oh, yes, Skype.
He is actually back here live in studio, back in the Tree City, his old stomping grounds. Josh Lee, joining us live in studio.
So I kind of feel like Ricky Bobby when he got interviewed. I mean, do I have to look up here and do this with my hands?
I don't know what to do with my hands.
So, yeah, we got back in late last night. Had to stay up and have a couple brewskis with the old man. But
no way.
Yeah, I know you guys are surprised by that. But, yeah, so here for a little bit, a week or so. And, yeah, excited to be back in studio. Couldn't miss it.
Nice. All right, well, it is time for the newest, hardest-hitting segment in sports radio weekly. It is time to see, well, and I have it this week. So it's time to check in to the Hot Take Hotel. And this week, we are checking in. We've got a reservation for 2 rooms. We're checking into room 6 and room 13. Because this week, as we've done before on our show, we've all given our opinions and we've made our lists of top 10 players in the history of the NBA. And my hot take this week is that any time from here on out that a list of the top 10 players of all time in the NBA is created, that neither Bill Russell nor Wilt Chamberlain should be considered for the top 10. Not taking away from their singular greatness whatsoever. But to me, I don't even know that they should be considered in the top 20 players of all time, but definitely not the top 10. And let me give you the reasons why this is. For like the first thing everybody always points to with Bill Russell, he won 11 titles. Like you can't take away from that. Well, when you think about that, when he was in the league was 8 to 10 teams total. Not in the Eastern Conference, there wasn't such thing as East and West Conference. The league itself was only 8 to 10 teams, and then by the time he retired, it got up to a whopping 14. So Bill Russell is not playing against the level of competition that today's superstars are playing against. And mix into that, you start to go down the list of people on the Celtics roster. Now, Bill Russell didn't have anything to do with that. Red Auerbach is the one building the roster. But when you're only playing against 8 to 10 teams and 6 to 7 of your roster are future Hall of Famers, and then around the rest of the league of 8 to 10 to up to 14 teams, you may, because not all of them did, have one future Hall of Famer on the roster. Your level of competition is not great. Then, and this goes as a part of that, so Bill Russell had 7 to 8 Hall of Famers on his team. Then you look at a guy like Kobe. Outside of Shaq, Kobe wins a title with Pau Gasol. Is he in the Hall of Fame yet?
No.
He's Hall of Very Good.
Hall of Very Good. And guys like Smush Parker, Kobe Bryant's able to take to a title. Tim Duncan played with David Robinson, Hall of Famer, but then, again, Hall of Very, Very Good. Manu Ginobili is not in the Hall of Fame, is he?
I think he went in this past year. Yeah, I think he just got in.
Tony Parker in the Hall of Fame?
I don't believe so. I don't think he's been retired long enough yet.
So, again, incredibly good, and we probably wouldn't be mad if they made the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
But it's not a roster of 7 to 8 Hall of Famers that we're talking about. And then you look at Wilt Chamberlain. Wilt Chamberlain, easy for me to say, had Jerry West, Elgin Baylor. So right there, Jerry West is the logo of the league, for crying out loud. And if you ask, like when you hear the old timers talk, they said Elgin Baylor was probably the NBA's original version of Michael Jordan. He, scoring wise, the different variety of ways that he could score was how he was. Now, tell me this. Can you tell me what Austin Reeves, Malik Monk, Bogdan Bogdanovic, yeah, easy for me to say.
Which is not to be confused with Bojan Bogdanovic.
Yes. Oh, I'm sorry. Hold on. I got Derek White, Austin Reeves, Malik Monk, Bogdan Bogdanovic, and Jordan Poole all have in common? Yeah, exactly.
They played for the Lakers. But
do you know what they all have in common? They all average more points than Bill Russell did in his career. When everybody talks about Bill Russell's greatness, they forget that he was fairly limited offensively. He averaged over 20 rebounds and I don't know how many blocks a game, but he was limited offensively. It was rebound putback. It was, I hate to say this because I've never seen film, but I wouldn't be shocked if it was the NBA version of the me-bound machine up in Chicago. Don't know, could have been, because you've got to think, and this is a knock against he and Chamberlain, those two were the only two in the league at the time who were physically the same as each other. The average center in the league when they were playing was 6'8". So granted, you can't take away from their God-given size. Like, that's not their fault. That's the way that it was. But the level of competition, like, look at Shaq, for example. Shaq is a freak of nature, but who did he have to compete against? Hall of Famer Hakeem Olajuwon. Hall of Famer Patrick Ewing. Hall of Famer David Robinson. Hall of Famer Tim Duncan. And just keep going on. He's not in the Hall of Fame, but again, he would be in the Hall of Incredibly Good. Rick Smits gave him fits, you know. And so when you look at that, it was Chamberlain versus Russell, and so level of competition. And everybody wants to talk about the insane stats, because when you look strictly at numbers, Wilt Chamberlain had a season where he averaged 50 points and 25 rebounds. That is ungodly. Mm-hmm. But average number of possessions in a game when he did that, 126. Average number of games, and we think the NBA is fast now. Average number of possessions in a game today is only 97.
Wait, 126 per team.
126 possessions.
Yeah, no, not for both teams combined.
And now have to fact check that.
I'm just saying, like 126 possession league compared to today that it's about 97 per game. Okay? And when you look at that 50 points and 25 and a half rebounds, if you put it at today's pace, still gaudy numbers, but Michael Jordan averaged almost 36 per season one season, did he not? Yes, he did. Wilt's 50 and 25 comes down to 38 and 20. So still impressive, but again, take into consideration the level of competition that he's playing. Put that with what Michael Jordan did. Michael Jordan's playing the Bad Boy Pistons and the Showtime Lakers and the Larry Bird dynasty in Boston. I mean, and Michael Jordan goes out and averages almost 36 for an entire season, 82-game season, and at that point would have been 30 teams in the NBA. And so we look at, we kind of already talked about this, but for many of Bill Russell's titles, he only had to win 8 games total to win a title.
Now you have to win 16.
Now you have to win 16 to win a title. So the path to get there was so much easier. And then, and we've kind of already been through this in our argument, the overall athleticism things across the league. Have you ever heard of a guy by the name of Zelmo Beatty?
No.
Next to Wilt Chamberlain and Bill Russell, the tallest person in the NBA at 6'9". Now, we've all heard of Willis Reed. Okay? Willis Reed was 6'9". Therefore, and I forgot this. We already said Shaq had Hakeem and Ewing and all those guys. Don't forget Dikembe Mutombo.
And Russell was 6'10". He wasn't a 7-footer. I think he was 6'10".
6'10", 6'11", probably, yes. And then we kind of already said this, and this is actually an argument we brought up before, but if rings are all we're going to worry about, then that means Robert Horry is the second best player in the history of the NBA.
Yeah.
I mean, he's got 10, right?
He's up there. Yeah.
I mean, Bill Russell with his 11. But you look at the path, like Jordan had to go through the Pistons, the bad boy Pistons. We already know about them. The Knicks, with the best Knicks teams outside of their 1972 championship.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You had Patrick Ewing. You had John Starks. You had Charles Oakley. For a little bit, you had Mark Jackson before he went to the Pacers. He had to play the Suns that had Charles Barkley, Kevin Johnson, Dan Marley, the Jazz, Stockton to Malone, the Sonics with Gary Payton and Sean Kemp, the Pacers with Reggie and Rick Smits and the Davis boys and all them. Then you go to Kobe. He had to play the Spurs with Duncan, with Robinson, with Parker, with Ginobili. The Kings with Chris Webber, Mike Bibby, Vlade Divac. The Celtics with Garnett, Pierce, Ray Allen, Rajon Rondo. The Suns with Steve Nash and Amari Stoudemire. Steph had to play LeBron and the Cavs. He had to play Kevin Durant and Russell Westbrook with the Thunder. He had to play the Rockets with James Harden, and so on and so on and so on and so on. And then the last little nail in the coffin here, all of these, and I found this through research. I didn't know this of Wilt Chamberlain, that he was actually known, even his own coach basically called him a stat chaser. He was honestly not concerned about the outcome of the game necessarily. He wanted to get his stats. It got to the point, it was so bad one time that in the NBA Finals against the Celtics, his coach benched Wilt Chamberlain because of his selfishness, and what was such a detriment to the team that Wilt Chamberlain got benched. As much as we hate him, has LeBron James ever been benched? Has Steph Curry ever been benched?
Definitely
Michael
not.
Jordan.
No.
I mean, like, just on the, because they're the ultimate winners. And so, therefore, gentlemen, my hot take this week is not to take away. I am not saying that they're not among the all-time greats. But I think once and for all we need to settle the argument that Wilt Chamberlain and Bill Russell do not belong even close to the conversation for being top 10 of all time in the NBA.
I'm going to piggyback off your hot take.
Uh-oh.
Wilt Chamberlain did not actually score 100 points. No footage of it.
Very true.
There's footage of everything that happened in old time. They have video of George Mikan playing 25 years before Wilt Chamberlain.
Was he doing his drill in the pregame?
He was. But, so I'm going to say he actually didn't score 100 points. But I'll start, and this is just having conversation and knowing Jason. I'm going to say that he actually believes it because I think he values more of the 80s, 90s, and today's NBA than he does back then. I also don't think that he puts the ultimate premium on championships. So I'm going to say that Jason actually believes his hot take. And if not, very, very convincing job.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
I think he believes it. He's wrong, but I think he believes it.
Oh, now you can't just say,
"Oh, okay,
I believe it and I'm wrong."
Well, first thing,
so you tell me why I'm wrong if I believe it.
You know, it's apples and oranges when you talk about players from the 50s and 60s versus today. Obviously, players today can run faster, jump higher, all those kind of things. So I think you have to look at the period of time where these guys played. And you talked about there were only 8 teams. That meant that the talent at that time, it wasn't watered down. You had the best of the best. The NBA today, watered down. they talk about expanding. It's like, oh my gosh, you're going to water the talent down even more. So that's why Bill Russell ended up with, 7 or 8 different Hall of Famers around him. He didn't score a lot because he didn't have to. He was dominant defender. That's what Red Auerbach wanted him to do when he played. Wilt Chamberlain, he was the Shaquille O'Neal of his generation. And, he didn't play with a lot of Hall of Famers when he was in Philly. He didn't get a championship until he went to the Lakers and had Jerry West, Gail Goodrich, Elgin Baylor. And Wilt Chamberlain, this is a crazy fact, he never fouled out in his entire career.
Averaged 48 minutes a game.
I remember the last game of his career, he had 5 fouls late in the third quarter. And everybody's like, oh, he's going to foul out. This is going to be it in his last game. Well, guess who didn't get any calls that fourth quarter? But, I think it's tough when you're comparing generations against generations because there's so many different things that factor into it. I think it's really interesting, the stat that you said about the number of possessions per game. I don't know. I think you believe it. I don't necessarily agree with it. I understand your argument. I can understand why. I think you're wrong, but I do believe that you believe it.
Okay.
I do believe that you believe it. I think you value championships, but not as much as I think people should. Like, in today's world, the most championships you're probably ever going to see somebody have is maybe 3 or 4. Back then, you could, kind of like what John Wooden did at UCLA. He won, 10, 11 straight? So, to Tom's point, I think the level of competition is something that is it's a fine line of how you judge it. But I think in today's league, knowing you, I think you have at least 6 or 7 players in just today's league that are in the top maybe 20, and then from the 80s, 90s, and 2000s that are also in the top 10 or 20. So I say you believe it, and I say you even believe they're not even in the top 20.
Okay, you're all correct. I do believe it, and I will stand by it. I'm not sure about where I would rank like present day players and things, and like when it comes to all-time greatness. Steph and LeBron are no-brainers. I'm willing to have an argument, even though Josh absolutely despises him, just from a strictly player perspective. I'm willing to have at least an argument, conversation about Kevin Durant possibly being in there.
Fraud alert.
But what I can't get past, like with Bill Russell, and it's easy to say, well, he didn't score because he didn't have to. Look at his career field goal percentage. At the size that he was and the advantage that he had, you got to think of where Bill Russell was shooting from, because that's just how the game was back then. Bill Russell's career field goal percentage was under 50%. Have you ever in your life, maybe even in the top 50, ever heard anybody argue that Dikembe Mutombo is one of the greatest players in the history of the NBA?
No.
Have you ever heard anybody ever argue that Dennis Rodman is one of the greatest players of all time in the history of the NBA?
No.
Those two did exactly what Bill Russell did. Bill Russell was an absolutely dominant defensive force. And he transcended the game during his time. And I don't devalue championships, but I devalue a championship when you've got to be like one of their championships, and it's no fault of their own. But because of the lack of depth in the league from a sheer number of teams, they played a team that was sub 500 in the finals that just happened to get hot and win one series. And I think it was St. Louis. What St. Louis, what were they?
Oh,
I almost called them the Blues. That was the old hockey team, right?
Yeah.
Are they still there? St.
Yeah,
Louis
they're
Blues?
still there.
Okay,
Yeah.
never mind. But from that perspective, and again, I am not taking away and not saying they're not great players, and I don't devalue players from that time. I would rather have an argument that Elgin Baylor or Jerry West or Oscar Robertson or people like that belong in the top 10 conversation outside of them. I don't like the fact that those two are just automatically lumped in. Well, you got to say either Wilt or Bill Russell. Well, let's do a little more homework and see if you have to. And thanks to ChatGPT, I was able to do that this week and find these different tidbits of information about the two. And so I'm not taking them outside my top 20 quite yet, but I very easily came up with 10 people who I would have in front of them. And we've been through this before. Jordan, LeBron, Kobe, Bird, Magic, Shaq, Kareem, Steph, Tim Duncan, and I got to remember who my 10th was. But it wasn't one of those guys.
Yeah.
But just right there, right off the top of my head, were 9 guys. Did I say Kobe?
Yeah, you did. Yep.
But right there were 9 guys who I don't even bat an eye, and they're automatically in front.
I think you might have said
those
Oscar,
guys.
actually.
Yeah.
Or
So,
I fact-checked myself. I knew the answer, but I fact-checked myself because I want to make sure we keep that 98.36% accuracy rate going. It was the St. Louis Hawks.
there
moved
it
to
is.
Atlanta.
You know, I think when people talk any sport and they talk all-time greats, in this argument, I don't know if it started at ESPN or what, but it seems to be that people are either on the side of championships matter more than anything, or championships don't matter. There has to be some sort of common ground. Like forever, the argument was, and I mean, it does play a big factor in it, but it's not the end-all be-all, and it doesn't mean nothing. Forever, the argument was, well, Joe Montana's the greatest quarterback of all time. He's got 4 Super Bowl rings. And then Brady surpassed that by 3. But that didn't mean that Joe Montana was better than Peyton Manning. That didn't mean that Joe Montana was better than Dan Marino because he was on a team with multiple NFL Hall of Famers and great defenses for that, with Ronnie Lott and all those guys on his defense. So there's a fine line between what Bill Russell did and his 11 NBA championships and what, Kobe did or LeBron has done, or go down that list. Like, just because Bill Russell has 11 championships based off all those points that you said doesn't mean that he's one of the 10 or 5 greatest players of all time. That doesn't mean he was a nobody and shouldn't be talked about, because he did change the game. And that's how I kind of look at things. Now, I wouldn't put Bill Russell in my top 10. I'm probably right there. I know people will be surprised to hear this.
Hakeem was my 10th. I left off, by the way. Yeah.
I know people will be surprised in hearing this, but we agree, shockingly, Jason. But he's probably in that 20th conversation if you really had to build a list. So, it is, kind of to Ryan's point, you have to figure out, and to your point, Tom, where they fit based off of when they played. Would Sidney Crosby or Connor McDavid have the same amount of points as Wayne Gretzky if they played at the same time that Wayne played? Because when Wayne played, there were basically no pads on the goalies.
Yeah.
None. And the rules were different. So would they be up there? I mean, if Babe Ruth played now, would he have 714 home runs? No. So, I mean, it's all just dependent, and I agree with Jason when it comes to that, to where they're ranked in the list, but the argument, that's why it's a good one, the argument can still be made that they are based off what you value.
And I think they almost cancel each other out, because if you value winning, if you value championships, then that takes Chamberlain out of the argument. Like if you're down to one last spot, but then, okay, well, I value statistics and things, well, then that takes Russell out of the equation and puts Chamberlain in, so they almost cancel each other out. And you can say you value one over the other, but when you're talking all-time greatness, shouldn't it all be a part of it? Like, you can't just say I value one thing overall. And kind of to your point, that's why I will say I don't know. Even sitting here right now, I don't know that Tom Brady is the greatest quarterback of all time. He's by far the greatest winner.
Yep.
Like, I'm not taking away from his greatness, but kind of like you said with Joe Montana, I think Dan Marino was a better quarterback, played the position of quarterback better than Joe Montana did.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
And so it's the same thing with Tom Brady. I think overall, now it's maybe Colts blue and white colored glasses. I think Peyton Manning played the position better than Tom Brady.
Yeah.
But Tom Brady is the ultimate winner. I think Patrick Mahomes plays the position better than Tom Brady. But Tom Brady is the ultimate winner. And if I'm a coach on the sideline and I have to win a game, I'm taking Tom Brady first every single time if I have to win a game. But that doesn't mean he's the overall best quarterback. Just depends what you value.
So, just a quick chat GPT search. Because the argument, and I know we're in Colts country, and we're going to get to the dumpster fire that is the Indianapolis Colts at this point in time. And Reggie Wayne is not in the Hall of Fame unless he just got in.
No, he's not.
But Peyton Manning played with Edgerrin James, Hall of Famer, Marvin Harrison, Hall of Famer, Marshall Faulk, at least for a year or two, a couple years, Hall of Famer. Reggie Wayne, soon to be Hall of Famer.
Was Falk on the Colts with Peyton?
I don't think he was.
I don't know that he was. I think that was pre-Peyton, wasn't it?
I'm pretty sure.
I think like maybe when they got
Falk
rid of
was
him
there
was
a
when
couple
they were
years.
awful, and that's how they
Peyton
got
was
the
drafted
first
in
pick.
98, right?
That's right.
98.
Sounds right, yes.
Edgerrin was drafted in 99. So, yeah. So he played with a couple Hall of Famers. Tom Brady, outside of a couple years with Randy Moss, which was his greatest statistical year, not of all time because that's Peyton Manning at Denver, but it's up there, and Gronk. But the other guys that he played with, like he made the guy's names escape him. Not Troy Brown, maybe Troy Brown.
Yeah,
that sounds right. Troy Brown. He made Troy Brown. He made Julian Edelman. He made Wes Welker. He made all of these guys that were nobodies that were drafted at no point in time. He made them into great NFL wide receivers. Deion Branch. I mean, he got him paid. Now, he did have Gronk, who is the greatest tight end of all time. And now Kelsey's making an argument for that. Tony Gonzalez certainly. But, Tom Brady to me is the greatest winner of all time, and he's the greatest quarterback of all time. But to your point, an argument can be made with Peyton, with Joe Montana. I don't know about Joe Montana. He played with
he played with all kinds.
He played with all kinds of Hall of Famers. So, I'm going to have to figure out who Dan Marino had on his roster. Was it Steve?
Mark Duper and Mark Clayton.
Mark Clayton and Super Duper. But I don't know that either of them are in the Hall of Fame. They were just known because they were so ridiculously fast. Like that was their thing.
And they played a different style. The Dolphins in the early 80s played a different style than anybody else was playing. And then
the Dolphins in the early 80s would project to today's NFL.
Yeah. And I think and that's where I think the argument gets a little bit crazy for Dan Marino, because if he would have just happened to win one more Super Bowl,
win a Super Bowl.
or just win a Super Bowl, then where does everybody put him of all time? In the top three?
Right. Yeah.
But just because he didn't do that, he's not. Like, get out of here with that. Yeah. He is one of the top three best quarterbacks of all time.
And that's almost like on the basketball side of it, you could say that for Charles Barkley. If Charles Barkley got a championship, how much higher up the list is he?
Yep.
I mean, Dream Teamer, he made the NBA All-Star game every year he was in there. He was an MVP, like all of these different things, but he doesn't have that championship. And so in any of the talks of all-time greats, as great as he was, he doesn't even get mentioned.
No.
So it's, I don't know.
It's unfortunate.
It really is, but so that was the Hot Take Hotel, and you guys were all correct.
Good one.
I do firmly believe that. And Josh, you weren't here for my second one. You couldn't join us, and because again, I don't remember if you said it, but just right then you're like, I don't know if you believe, or if you don't believe it, you did a heck of a job selling it. Did we tell you what my second one was? Shaq had mentioned something on a podcast about the WNBA needing to lower the rim to 9 feet. And my hot take was that I agreed with that. And I did such a good job selling it, both of these guys thought I believed it.
I think we've had conversations to get me to know that you don't
Oh, good God, no. How stupid of an idea is
You're
that?
also a
Yes.
women's basketball coach.
Exactly right. Yeah. But I did such a good job selling it.
Well, I'm
Do
going
both.
to. So I think it's
It's either
back to
you
me.
or Tom. Yes, I think it is.
Yeah.
So I'm going to have to bring it next week.
You are. No pressure or anything.
I'm going to
Just
have
saying.
to bring it.
By the way, you talked about Barkley. Did you all hear what they're going to do with Inside the NBA next year
if
on ESPN?
You're about to hurt my feelings.
It's not going to be on all the time. When it is, it's going to be a 30-minute post-game show. That's it. No pregame, 30 minutes post-game.
Really?
That it's going to be on. That's
You're
it.
kidding.
Honest. That's what.
What an absolute waste. But hey, I know those guys ain't doing it for free, and I'm sure they got a
Yeah.
pretty penny. So,
Yeah.
But it's even like I heard Barkley on an interview with Dan Patrick, and this was back this summer. He said one of his biggest fears is something like that happening, because he said that's what made our show great. Was TNT basically said after the game, the time is yours. If it takes you 30 minutes, great. If you're on the air for another 2.5 hours, great. Because it was just that banter, the natural talking between that panel that made that show so great. Because it wasn't just, hey, let's all laugh at Chuck, let's all laugh at Shaq. They would do that at times, but they're also knowledgeable of the game, and they could do these breakdowns and everything. And so that's a shame that that's going to happen, because you're losing such good coverage of the NBA. And let's be honest, the NBA in the regular season, it doesn't need help in the postseason. Numbers were good for the playoffs, were they not? Mm-hmm. But it needs all the help it can get in the regular season.
Yeah, and ESPN's not on a schedule. They can jump into their 7 straight hours or whatever of Sports Center at any point in the show. So, yeah, I don't understand why they're limiting it to 30 minutes. Just seems stupid to me.
Is that 30 minutes only on ESPN Original, and they'll jump to ESPN 2 or something?
No.
That's got to
30
change
minutes.
at some point.
30 minutes.
Wow.
That has to change at some point. They've got to be paying way too much money for just
minutes.
that. But
is it going to be 7 days a week, or only after a broadcast?
Only after a broadcast.
And how many games a week does ESPN have? Do you know?
I think in the new contract, 2, yeah.
It's like Wednesday and Friday.
2 games a week. That's unbelievable.
And they're not going to be on until after Christmas. So they're going to miss the first 2 months of the season.
well, the NBA shouldn't even start till Christmas Day anyway.
Yeah.
But
I agree. I agree. Well, before we get into the dumpster fire that is up Interstate 74, I just happened to cross it last night. I was flipping through the stations when I got home from the Greensburg game. Have you guys seen the tribute to Coach Corso yet about College Game Day?
I cried at about 4 a.m. watching that.
It's an hour-long special. And to me, this is the power of sports. And this is why sports is like a part of the fabric of who I am. Because here, I've never in my life met Lee Corso. I've never met any of the guys on the show. But it becomes such a part of your life, and it's such an expected part of your life, that you just get used to the fact that it's going to be there, right? It's just always going to be there. It's like that nice warm blanket you wrap up in. It makes you feel good about everything. Here I am, a guy that I've never met, will never meet. I'm sitting there watching that show, and I'm getting emotional about it. Like, I'm watching it on my couch, and I'm like, holy cow, this is like it's my own grandpa or something that they're doing this tribute to. But I think that is a testament. That tells you how good that guy is at his craft, that he has gotten people to care to that level. But then it's also just a testament to the power of sport, to the power of that show and how good it is. And it's just like with Inside the NBA, what has made that show so genuinely good is you can tell the right people in the places of power just stood back and said, go. And that is how things like that are able to be crafted to be special. And it's so if you haven't watched it yet, I can't, it's not some big fancy title. It's like Tribute to College Game Day and Coach Corso or something. You'll see it on your guide. It's an hour-long show that will be, I'm assuming they'll show it on all of the different networks of ESPN at some point, but do yourself a favor and watch that. Tom, you said you watched it. What did you
didn't.
think?
I missed,
you
I
haven't?
missed the one you were talking about. I saw a different short thing.
If you have not watched it, it is so worth the hour of time that it will take you to get through it. It's incredibly.
It's crazy, and I think at some point in the years to come, somebody, Netflix or something, is going to do some sort of multi-part documentary on the downfall of ESPN. Because look at what ESPN was in the mid-'90s. Look what it was before the mid-'90s, even in the early 2000s. Look at all of the stuff that they have access to at this point in time now with the NFL deal and things along those lines. Look at what they did with College Game Day and all these other shows that they've done. And you sat there and said they basically just were hands off with College Game Day. And I know Pat McAfee started his own show, but ESPN allowed him to keep his show the same. And that's one of the more popular shows that ESPN doesn't produce but puts on their programming. It's amazing to see the downfall of what ESPN has done and what it's become. And I think it needs to be studied, and I think it will be studied at some point in time because they had the monopoly. And even when Fox Sports tried to make, they did make it, but Fox Sports 1, Fox Sports 2, they tried to do those morning shows. Even with the talent that they had, nothing ever came close. Look at Mike and Mike in the morning. I mean, that was the standard bearer for that. And for early morning talk radio, 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. every morning, it was Mike and Mike in the morning. And they ruined that show. They've just had so many good things that they've ruined over the years. And hopefully they kind of keep their hands off of College Game Day, because even now it's still the best produced and the best show in the business.
I'm going to, and it's funny that you mentioned him, and I would have to do the research myself, and I don't care enough to do it. But I would be shocked if a documentary came out about that and you didn't find the tipping point when the ball started to roll. Instead of being pushed up to the peak of the hill, it got to the peak and started to roll down the other side, would be when ESPN allowed Mike Greenberg to be a greedy son of a gun, and Mike and Mike was shown the door. That was the tipping point when you started to see things change at ESPN. And I used to love Greeny. If I see him on now, I turn to I can't stand him. He is so obnoxious, and they've allowed him to yield all this power. He and Stephen A. Smith. But Stephen A. Smith, I'm not even going to hold a grudge against him because he actually made his name and his fame through his radio show.
Yeah.
And then he's just continued his shtick on ESPN, but ESPN has allowed him to do it. I think that turn, and it was just the tipping point. I'm not going to say it's the whole cause of everything, but what started that ball rolling in the wrong direction was the cancellation of Mike and Mike and giving Mike Greenberg the power he seems to have now.
Yeah.
And Mike and Mike was followed by Stephen A. and Skip. And that was the first of its kind. So whatever we think about Stephen A. Smith and Skip Bayless, before those two went their separate ways and got their greediness and whatever like Mike Greenberg did, that was a revolutionary show. That first, whatever they call Cold Pizza, I think is how it started.
Yeah.
And that was a great show because you never saw two people combating against each other like that in sports radio, and that was great. So you had 7 hours of really good content every day from 6 to 1 o'clock whenever that show went off the air, Cold Pizza, or whenever it was over. But yeah, I mean, I think that's.
And then Colin Cowherd was on after that,
and Cowherd after that. So that was.
And when Cowherd was at ESPN, he was my second favorite sports talk show, and there were starting to be more and more out there. And it got to the point I actually listened to him first before I would listen to Mike and Mike. But anyway,
yeah, and I mean, obviously Dan Patrick's show is fantastic. It's the best.
It's the best.
It's just harder to find than it is anything else. The ESPN.
Help me
produces.
understand this part about it, because I still, when I'm able to, I will watch and or listen to Dan Patrick. So he's streamed on NBC, on Peacock, right? Owned by NBC.
Yep.
But do you know what radio his
No.
show is on? Fox Sports.
Huh.
How much sense does that make? I'm with NBC, but I'm on Fox Sports Radio.
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry, I digress. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's just, but no, I mean, that's the thing when you talk about Mike Greenberg, and I don't know if he's trying to be Stephen A. Smith or what he's trying to do, but his takes are so homered and so outlandish that you can't even be convinced that they're real. I mean, his teams are the Jets and all that, but he's from Chicago, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Yep.
So, and it's just everything that he touches and he's on is an automatic change of the channel. Whether it's NBA's or ESPN's coverage of NBA or his show, it's an automatic skip.
Yeah.
So yeah, it'll be interesting. But I like that you kind of timeline that out, Jason, because thinking about how ESPN has gone so downhill the last 7-8 years, getting away from a highlight show that was SportsCenter, taking away things that we grew up watching. Baseball Tonight. How great was Baseball Tonight at the end of every night? And I especially remember those years of the home run chase because I was such a big Ken Griffey Jr. fan, and I was actively rooting against Mark McGwire and Sammy Sosa. Not because I was a Reds fan, but because I was a Ken Griffey Jr. fan. But you had the nightly updates of this guy hit a home run, this is what they're on pace for, this is that. And, what they had every night they showed who hit the home runs. So they had the baseball screaming across the screen, and you knew that's where you were going to find your home runs. And you can consume sports stats and content so much easier now than you could have. I understand that as well. But getting away from a lot of those shows that made them successful, the way that SportsCenter was produced then compared to now, I mean, there's just a lot. Basically everything that they've done the last 10 years has been wrong.
Yeah, and Jimmy Pitaro, who runs ESPN now, I think he may be seeing what we're talking about because if you've looked over the past couple of months, all the money that ESPN has thrown out there to get NFL Network, NFL Red Zone, all of that, now WWE to get all of that. It's like he's throwing billions of dollars now to try and get people to subscribe to that $29.99 a month ESPN direct-to-consumer app.
Which help me understand that. So
it's for people that don't have a bundling package or don't have cable. So somebody.
So
that
it's
doesn't
still
have
going to
access
be
ESPN.
like they're still going to be broadcasting like on if you've got DirecTV or something.
Yeah.
It's not.
Yeah.
It'll just
It's
raise
just
the prices of DirecTV or
with
something.
the app, you get everything on
gotcha.
all the ESPN
So
channels.
they're not removing themselves and saying if you want to consume our product, you have to have.
No.
I gotcha. Okay.
So let's think about this. So WWE was with Peacock.
Yes.
And
Still is, right?
They have one more.
No,
till after
Clash in
Clash of
Paris.
Paris, yeah.
and then it's going to ESPN.
Yes.
So you were paying or $11.99 or whatever for Peacock, and that got you all of the live events, the premium live events, not pay-per-views anymore because you're not paying per view.
Yeah.
So all premium live events. So that went from $11.99. Let's just say you don't have cable and you subscribe to ESPN the way you just talked about, Tom. Now you're paying $30 a month to get all of the WWE PLEs.
Right.
Okay. ESPN had UFC. WWE and UFC are owned by the same company, TKO, at this point in time. You were paying $69.95 for every UFC pay-per-view. And if you wanted to watch, or if you were a UFC fan, you were paying that for every, at least major one.
Yep.
Every UFC 207, 208, 209. Now, it's switched, UFC switched to Paramount Plus, and you can pay $9.99 a month for Paramount Plus and get every UFC event, all the main ones.
And strangely enough, the WWE library, if you want to go back and watch SummerSlam from 2 years ago, that's still going to be on Peacock. Yeah. And Saturday night's main event's going to be on Peacock, not NBC.
So Peacock basically only lost the premium events.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And you have to buy the the new ESPN just to watch any of them.
So it won't be
I read
on
something different. I read that if you have it cable or bundling, that
I think for the first couple months, if you have cable, you'll be able to watch it. But like next year, it's going to be exclusively
to the app or whatever it is.
The app.
So the TKO group, the media rights deal for UFC from Paramount was 7 years at $7.7 billion, which is fine because they have tons of pay-per-views in air quotes, but they went from the money's not moneying to me. How are they going from $69.95 per event to $10 a month, and you get all of the events? But WWE got a very similar deal, and they're going essentially from $11.99 to $30. Like the math is not mathing.
But for years, WWE, you had to pay $49.95 a month if you wanted to watch one of their pay-per-views before they went to Peacock and did the premium.
Well, they started WWE Network at first.
Yes.
For $9.95 a month.
Yes.
So,
well, I think how the maths itself out is, let's say you're a rugby fan, and that's why you buy the ESPN subscription. Well, you just paid for WWE as well. And so you're getting the entire slice of the pie, not just your slice of the pie. You know what I'm saying?
No, I get it. So, but there's going to be 43 events on Paramount Plus in 2026 for UFC. So the 13 numbered events, those were $70 a month. So that's $910 a year. If you pay $10 a month for Paramount Plus, that's only $120 a year.
Correct, but you got to think. Let's say they sold 1 million views. How many monthly subscriptions do they have?
Yeah,
it's probably a lot more than 1 million.
They have to think that
I would be guessing.
They have to think that they're going to sell enough ads to make up for that cost.
Yeah, I just have to think that when you look at the overall math or the overall percentage of total customers to Paramount Plus or ESPN or whatever, for whatever reason they do it, is going to make the single viewership of an event look minuscule.
Yeah, there are definitely now. There's
because
not,
I get why it's hard to compute because you're like, well, my goodness, $70 compared to $10 is not close. But then what if it's 1 million viewers times $70 and 20 million subscribers at $10? You know what I mean? And just throwing numbers out there, but
I mean, obviously, and there's not many smarter people than us.
Very true.
There's not many, but this just doesn't. It just didn't make sense how they if they would have kept WWE the same and buying it how they are the same and UFC the same, just switch networks. You would obviously UFC's not doing anything wrong to get $1.1 billion a year. Yeah. You would think that people were already conditioned to buying the pay-per-views. I don't know. I just, the math wasn't mathing to me. And it's still not mathing, but, again, somebody smarter than me figured that one out.
We got just a few minutes here before we need to go to break. I'm going to throw this out there, and I hope my comment doesn't upset anybody. And if it does, I apologize. But I'm trying to be incredibly positive in what I'm saying. So, as you guys all know, I announce the football games at Greensburg, and being a proud Greensburg alum, being a teacher for it's my 27th year. God, Josh, you're old.
You did coach me.
My 27th year in teaching, which would be my 25th at Greensburg. I've been coaching at Greensburg all of those years, so a proud coach. I walked away from Shriver Field last night with a pride I haven't felt in a long time because of what Coach Isaac Sliger and the Greensburg football team. Yeah, I know they lost. I get that. The result was not what we wanted. But to see the amount of pride that the entire coaching staff had, which is led by our new head coach, Isaac Sliger, to see the pride that those kids had, to see the pride that they played with, to see that the passion that they played with, to see a renewed joy in playing the game of football for your school was such a refreshing thing to see as an alum, as a fan, as an employee, as a coach. I was so proud last night watching what I got the privilege of watching that I can't even begin to describe how excited I am, not only for the rest of this year, but for the future and for all the boys who will decide whether it's next season or in future seasons to play football. It's going to be a very enjoyable experience, and it may not happen immediately, but you can see the progress that has been made, that will be made. There are wins in our future, and it was so refreshing to watch, and I'm so excited for those kids and for the coaching staff. It was a fun night. Outside of the outcome, it was a very fun night again to be out at Shriver Field last night.
And how about the pirate ship?
Yeah, pretty cool, isn't it?
It is.
And what's so funny about it is, it's one of those things now that since I see it every day, even though I do think it's cool, it's kind of become part of the backdrop to me. It's just there. But to hear what people from other schools and things say when they see it, like it's a very impressive thing. And it's kind of neat. Coach Sliger started something last night. Each week there will be a Pirate of the Week named that gets to raise the is it the Jolly Roger? Is that what the pirate flag is? They raise the Jolly Roger to the top of the flag pole to signify the start of the game. So
kind of like a Seattle
awesome.
Seahawks type thing.
Yeah, it's kind of cool. And last night the inaugural Pirate of the Week was Mrs. Katina Tekulve, former junior high cross country coach and current, and has been for a while, current science teacher at Greensburg High School. She was described as being the ultimate cheerleader, not only out on at games, but in the classroom and things. And I mean, they described Katina to a T. So, very well deserved by her. But I thought that was a pretty cool tradition that was started last night as well.
Yeah.
The thing about it is that it was so frustrating over the last couple years, with the football program and seeing Miles invested in it and involved in it a little bit from a distance. But what you have to do at a school the size of Greensburg, and what I'll just say you have done, Jason, and what Colin has done, and what Stacy did for a while, and what other coaches that I know I'm missing have done, you have to be involved in the community. And it's not just showing up and only coaching football. It's not being Archie Miller and showing up at Indiana and just coaching basketball. Especially in a small community, you've got to go to different functions, even if you don't have the time or you don't want to. You have to be seen in the community on a daily or weekly basis. And it's not just coaching football. It's convincing kids to come out. It's making it fun for kids to come out. You're more a promoter at a school the size of Greensburg than you are a football coach. You need to surround yourself, and I don't know Isaac Sliger from if he walked in the door, but I have read a lot and I've heard a lot, even being via satellite in Wisconsin, about how he's turned the program around, at least for the being positive and fun and invested in the program. And that's what you have to do. And basically to build it to where your program is, Jason, where the boys basketball program is, you have to start from the ground level, and you have to work harder and be more involved than anybody else, maybe in the state, because of what Greensburg football has been over the last 2 years. And it's refreshing to hear that and see that from a distance, because that's all it takes. You don't have to be Bill Walsh and come in here and only coach football. You have to get kids out, and you have to surround yourself, like he's done, with really good football minds that have a passion for the kids and for the school. And that went away for a couple years, and seeing the staff now, seeing how he's invested in the community and in those kids, he's doing it exactly how you have to do it, and it's exciting to see.
Yeah, I mean, he turned Rushville around, and if he could do it there, he can certainly do it here. And, Jason, I know you and I talked about it, that initially it was a little difficult because he was coaching differently than what they've had the past 2 years, but they were actually getting coached as opposed to the past 2 years. And as they saw that, then it was like, oh, okay, yeah, that's how we're supposed to play. That's how the game is. And 40-some kids that they have on the roster?
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Like just doing a quick eye test last night, I think we had more now, granted, I don't know if that was Shelbyville's entire program or not, but I think we had more kids on our sideline than Shelbyville did last night. So, great step in the right direction, and just so excited for them. I haven't gotten to know him incredibly well yet, but I at least in passing see Coach Sliger about every day at school, and he's always positive and upbeat and hardworking, and the kids seem to really respect him for that, and so just super excited for them and proud of the product that's put out there, and the approach by everybody involved is it's just good. We're going to keep it at that because I'm going to say something and get in trouble.
He's got the right guys on staff. Let's put it that way.
Beyond the Game brought to you by Schutte Excavating, Gillenhow Funeral Home, Batesville Chrysler Dodge Jeep, Buy-Rite Auto, Decatur County Recycling, and Russ Hubler Ford. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Beyond the Game. Beyond the Game brought to you by Schutte Excavating, Gillenhow Funeral Home, Batesville Chrysler Dodge Jeep, Byride Auto, Decatur County Recycling, and Russ Hubler Ford. Ryan Higginbotham, Tom Fleming, Josh Lee, and Jason Simpson live here in studio. Well, fellas, we did our job and pushed it all the way to the second hour. But let's go ahead and discuss the big news around the state this week. QB1 in Indianapolis is going to be Danny Dimes, Daniel Jones. So before I give my take, let's just hear it.
Yep, Daniel Fitzgerald Jones, Esquire.
The third?
Yeah. Yeah.
Go ahead, Tom.
I mean, if Chris Ballard doesn't get fired after this season, something's wrong, because he made that pick of Anthony Richardson. That was his baby, to take a guy who only played 13 games in college.
54%.
Only started for 1 year.
Tom.
Yeah.
That's all you got to say.
In college, 54%.
54%.
And and Shane Steichen was hired because of his success in the past in developing quarterbacks. And it's like, is it that Anthony Richardson didn't get developed because he was injured so much? Which he had a history of in college, being injured and missing games. So you're getting exactly
I wonder
what
where
is
you
coming
could have
into
gotten that information,
Imagine
Chris
that.
Ballard.
Imagine that. So, to me, it says you have to get rid of Anthony Richardson at this point. I mean, I don't think he can come back from this. I don't see it. And his 2 years in the NFL, I think he's played the equivalent of one season, and he's at just barely over 50% pass completion. So they saw the dynamic. He was under 50% last year, but his rookie year, the 4 games that he played, he was a little bit over. Just an absolute mess. And Chris Ballard deserves to be fired. He's deserved to be fired for years. Jim Irsay felt some kind of brotherly thing with him, I guess, because I don't know why he kept him on. Hopefully Irsay's kids will say, yeah, we've had enough of this. Let's go find a real general manager. So, yeah, it's just a disaster.
So 54% at Florida, and you said just over 50% for the Colts. Now wait, Tom, are you trying to tell me, what's the old adage? A tiger doesn't change its stripes? I am shocked.
Yeah, I mean, I've beat the fire Chris Ballard drum for about 6 years. I do have a theory, though. It doesn't make the decision from the Colts correct. I think they're starting Daniel Jones because it's easier to bench Daniel Jones after 3 weeks and go to Anthony Richardson, and hopefully he gets healthier, becomes the savior, and saves his job, as opposed to you start Anthony Richardson, and let's say he's healthy for 8 games, which he's never been consecutively, but he is, and he's bad, and you have to go to Daniel Jones, you're 100% fired. But if you go to Daniel Jones for 3 weeks and they go 0-3 and he's terrible, and you go to Richardson and he gets them to their standard 7-10, 8-9, but then if, let's say, Anthony Richardson goes 7-7 in his 14 starts, or 8-6, now Steichen and Ballard says, look at the progress that he's made. Here we go. We have something to build on. Now we're picking in the middle of the first round, and we're only this guy away. Yeah. We're only this guy away. But no, that's why I think the Colts are starting Daniel Jones over Anthony Richardson. It's because Ballard, like Dan Dockage has said for years, is in self-preservation mode, and the only way you can do that is to let Daniel Jones fail, and then you can bring in Richardson to hopefully be the savior, because that's the only way that they can keep their job at this point.
So I actually look at this from a total opposite angle. I feel like, and I'm not saying you're wrong, this is, none of us know exactly what's, but through the lens that I see it through, I think this just shows what a total and epic failure the Anthony Richardson experience was, and his ineptness and inability to play the position. I think from day one when they signed Daniel Jones, they called it a competition. I don't believe that for a second. I don't believe this became a competition until he broke his pinky in that game against the Ravens. And they're like, oh, here we go. And the reason that I say that is...
you think it was Richardson's job no matter what?
I think he had so many baked-in advantages and has shown, not that we have seen, but he has shown, like, what's the one positive thing that you heard in the offseason about... Because there's only been one, and it's so ludicrous. I can't even believe I'm about to say it.
About Daniel Jones?
No. What's the one positive change about Anthony Richardson that was talked about this offseason?
He's become more of a professional.
Not even that. You don't hear that talked about a lot. He changed his diet. He changed his diet. Do y'all remember early in the offseason how there was news that he was going to go work out with Josh Allen's coach and stuff like that? Guess who didn't do that? Anthony Richardson. He quit eating gummy worms, Josh.
I mean,
gummy worms.
Gummy worms are pretty solid. But
that'll take you to the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
But I think he was given so many advantages and so many opportunities that this move to Daniel Jones was like, we got nothing else we can do. The old adage, you can lead a horse to water. Apparently, Anthony Richardson was not drinking, and they had the funnel shoved down his throat, and the gallon of water poured over trying to pour it in, and he kept moving the funnel. Like, what are you doing? To me, I think it just shows that, as Dan Dockich loves to say, he's not an adult. And if you're in a room full of children, the one adult in the NFL it has to be the quarterback. It has to be. And I think Anthony Richardson just continued to show over and over that he was not, to go along with the fact he does not have the physical tools to play the position of quarterback. If I'm the Colts, this would never happen, but I would do it on Madden. Look at him physically. Put him at tight end. Just move him. Like, the dude can run for days. Just don't play him at quarterback. I think he has proven time and time again. 54% at Florida.
50.6% in the NFL.
Whoa.
Played 15 games out of 34 that the Colts had.
So hadn't even played an entire season yet.
Averaging just about 170 yards passing per game.
What's his average QBR?
I didn't pull that up.
Oh, okay.
That's probably like 30.
He has 11 passing touchdowns in 15 games. In addition to those 11 touchdowns, he has 13 interceptions, so more interceptions.
How is there anybody questioning this? Yes, I realize that the other guy is Daniel Jones. Bring up Daniel Jones' stats. I guarantee they ain't pretty, but they're not that bad. Are they?
I think.
Please tell me no.
They're pretty bad.
I think the only quarterback worse than Anthony Richardson last year was Daniel Jones. Or maybe he was one spot better than Anthony Richardson.
Was Andy Dalton better than them? I shouldn't badmouth them. Sorry, redheads unite.
Well, that's true. Soulless redheads.
It doesn't show how many games, but Daniel Jones has 14,582 passing yards, 70 touchdown passes, 47
there
interceptions.
You go.
64.1% completion
there you
percentage.
Go.
Passer rating 84.3.
Thank you.
So
perfectly serviceable.
Look, here's the other reason that. So last year, yeah, I saw some stats. I tried to find them, but yeah, it was like Daniel Jones and Anthony Richardson were like the Miles Turner of NBA centers. Like, they were worse than some backups.
Yeah.
But the Giants last year, in the middle of the season, released Daniel Jones. The Vikings signed Daniel Jones to the practice squad. Never played a snap for the Vikings. Because the Colts gave him a 1-year, $14 million deal, the Vikings will in turn get a 4th-round compensatory pick in next year's NFL draft. So the Vikings are playing chess when the Colts are they don't even know what checkers is.
Tiddlywinks.
So the Colts, if you knew, here's my issue with the Colts at this point in time. And it's not that Daniel Jones beat out Anthony Richardson or they decided to start Daniel Jones over Anthony Richardson. If you knew that it took very minor things for Anthony Richardson to screw up or not do based off his past and what you expected from him, why would you not go out and sign Sam Darnold?
Who was phenomenal last year in Minnesota.
The Colts had an opportunity to win that division, save jobs, go to the playoffs. They were linked to Sam Darnold all year last year. Why would you not go sign Sam Darnold and say, it's an open competition, but Sam Darnold is getting 3 years at $30 million. And if Anthony Richardson does this, he has a chance. But that they didn't do. They signed Daniel Jones to a 1-year, $14 million deal. They're not even trying at the quarterback position at this point. In Chris Ballard's tenure, they've started a different quarterback in every first game, every single year. Now, we know the Browns' ineptitude at quarterback. We know the Bears' ineptitude at quarterback. Nothing compares, and this is not hyperbole, nothing compares to the last 9 years of the Indianapolis Colts when it comes to the quarterback position. And this is coming from a fan that the Bears signed their backup quarterback to a contract extension. It's the first time that they've signed a quarterback to a contract extension since 2014 with Jay Cutler.
And it was their backup.
That's how bad they've been at the quarterback position, but they haven't been Daniel Jones and Anthony Richardson bad. And the Bears have cycled through GMs at that point in time. That's the problem. The Colts haven't tried anything different.
I think the thing that, as a Colts fan, you've got to hold out hope for is this roster is seemingly better than what they've had in a few years.
Yeah.
And you look at when they haven't been great, and Joe Flacco and Gardner Minshew were able to win games. So Daniel Jones just needs to be perfectly serviceable. That's all you have to do.
But he's never been.
I know. But at least you would he has a playoff victory. I get it, Saquon Barkley. But we got Jonathan Taylor, who's pretty darn good.
Win.
You know? He has a playoff win. He does that one good season, and it was the whole season. That is the outlier when you look at his whole career. But maybe you hope, lightning strikes twice, or he gets in a better situation because, sometimes that's what athletes need. They just need a new environment, and things click. You never know. And so that's the hope that you've got to hold out for if you are a Colts fan, is that because I firmly believe this was the right move to make. Like, Anthony Richardson is a child. When the only positive that can be said about you is you changed your diet. Why did you have to? When you come to the NFL, it is the professional football league. First word in that sentence is professional. Act like a professional.
Yep.
Act like a professional. And you are in the most important position in sports, the quarterback of an NFL franchise. You have to be a professional. And all we can talk about is you changed how you eat. I got nothing for him. I hope Daniel Jones goes out and throws 15 interceptions in the first 2 games, and they stick with him. I really don't hope he does that because that would be disastrous. But I hope they're calling for his head, and they stick to their guns and say, no, this guy's a bum. He's on the bench. We're trading him, whatever it is, because it's a rookie contract. You're out that draft pick that you lost that year. But here's the thing. They had to draft somebody. You know who the other guy was that everybody's like, oh, they might take him? Will Levis. How's that worked out? How's Will Levis? So
he's actually been better than Anthony.
Which is not saying a whole lot. That's not a really high bar to get over. But that right there just shows you what a gamble drafting truly is. I mean, it's the ultimate gamble. Go back, what was it? Almost 30, it'd be 20, I can do math, 25 years, 27, 26, whatever it was, when Peyton Manning was drafted.
Yeah.
Greater than 50% of the people thought that the Colts should take Ryan Leaf. They gambled, went with Peyton Manning. Totally changed the course of the franchise for 25 years.
Got that stadium built.
Exactly. So it's a crapshoot. It's a gamble. How many teams passed on Patrick Mahomes?
The Bears.
When his career is over, is going to be in every argument for greatest quarterback of all time, based on what he's done right to this point. So, again, it's not a true science. It's a gamble. It truly is. Now, you can do all your homework leading up to it, and when we look at 54%, 13 games, man, that you want to talk about a gamble, that's the ultimate gamble on potential right there. You almost hindsight is the great equalizer in all these things, but you have to wonder why the Colts didn't end up going with Will Levis, because he at least had more tape, he had more history, he had all these things in his corner, much more so than Anthony Richardson did. So
he's almost as big a bust as Jamarcus Russell, who's thought of as the worst draft pick ever in the history of the NFL draft. So, it's a mess.
And here's my issue with it. We've said it a million times on this show. It's not that they took Anthony Richardson. I mean, it is, but it's not. What it is, it was Chris Ballard selling to all the fanboy indie sports media guys that he was the quarterback they wanted all along. And like I've said on the show 100 times, the logic is flawed in that based off the history of the NFL and the draft. If you have the conviction that the guy is the best player, the best fit, the best quarterback, you do whatever you can to trade up and get him. And if they sat there and said Anthony Richardson is head and shoulders above Bryce Young and C.J. Stroud, which nobody said that, but if you think that, you trade up to make sure that nobody moves ahead of you and takes Anthony Richardson.
Yep.
But that's what he sold for years. He was the best. We thought he was the best guy. He's the best guy. He's the best. No, you didn't. Because you didn't make the moves that NFL teams do to get up and go get him. So that's where the logic is flawed. And the Panthers, to their credit, traded up to the Bears and gave up a lot to go get Bryce Young. Bryce Young started off as poorly as you could. Who looks decent going into this year? Bryce Young.
Yeah.
Showed some stuff, got the coaching and the system around him sort of steadied and stable. Anthony Richardson was drafted by Shane Steichen. Anthony Richardson was drafted in the Shane Steichen system. Anthony Richardson was drafted to be Jalen Hurts. And Anthony Richardson, you can find out through all the research that you do pre-draft, if you're a scouting department or a GM, if the guy is a child or not. And everybody knew that he was when they drafted him. Take out all the 54% completion percentage in college, which we've said on this show, nobody under 60% in college is ever successful in the NFL. 4 guys like us know that. And yet they still drafted him number 4 overall. You're telling me a guy like Shadur Sanders drops to the 5th round with the college career that he had and the NFL pedigree that he has.
What was his overall college completion percentage?
Oh, it was like 70%
was
or something.
Great.
He led the country last year in completion percentage.
Running for not running as much as he had to his junior year, but his offensive line was not phenomenal. He still had a very high completion percentage.
He wasn't surrounded with the dudes that Anthony Richardson was at Florida.
Correct.
But he drops to the 5th round, and Anthony Richardson goes 4th overall. Everybody thought Will Levis had a chance to be 4th or whatever. Guess what? 32 teams passed on him in the first round, and it looks smart that they did. Would 32 teams have passed on Anthony Richardson? We'll never know, but There's only one team that looks stupid for picking him now, and that's the Indianapolis Colts.
And you look at it like you mentioned Bryce Young. This kind of to me, not that you can't take guys who've only played a year of college football. Like, let's say Arch Manning meets or gets really close to expectations this year. He would have been at Texas for 3 years. Now, would have only played, if they get to the national championship game, it'd be 16. Isn't that right?
Yeah.
You play 16. So he'd have 16 games of film, but would have been there for 3 years. You obviously know he's not going to be a child. But there's the argument to be made, and Bryce Young started out as looking like he's going to be a bust. How many years did he start at Alabama?
2.
Maybe 2.
Okay. So he's got miles on his tires. He had years of experience with him. Struggles to make that transition, but because he's an adult, he is a professional, he takes things seriously, he was able to get some things figured out and now doesn't look like a huge number 1 overall draft pick bust, right? Bo Nix with the Broncos played, I think it was like 60-some.
He started as a freshman
games
at Auburn.
Yeah.
You know, he started like 60-some games in college football. Then has the good fortune to get drafted by a coach like Sean Payton. So now not only do you have all of this experience, and now everybody can see, all right, we see what a floor could be. We see maybe what a ceiling can be. Now we know what we're getting, and you get a guy like Sean Payton. That's how you go about drafting guys. I'm not saying don't draft on potential, but it's almost like Chris Ballard drafted on fear of what Anthony Richardson might have been simply because of what he looked like in the combine. Boy, look at how that guy looks in those spandex and that cut-off shirt. Like, man, that's just a specimen. Cool. But what can he do? Like, it's almost like they took no stock in any of the past statistics and the fact that the dude, he might throw the best deep ball in the NFL. But what do you do that about once every 4 games that it's successful? You throw 5-yard outs on about every third pass, or, you know, a slant route every third pass.
Or dump it off to Jonathan Taylor. He can't even do that.
He can't do it. About 1 out of every 4 times. And then the 3 out of the 4 times, it's either going into dirt at their feet or 5 yards over their head. It's just, it's laughable to see how bad of a decision that has turned out to be.
Shadur Sanders played 50 games over the course of 4 years in college. His completion percentage was 70.1. Last year in 13 games at Colorado, his completion percentage was 74%.
That's insane. That's insane. And, you know, the closest comparison that I can physically make in the recent drafts to Anthony Richardson is Jalen Milroe, that started at Alabama for 2 years.
Yes.
And throws an amazing deep ball and it looks the same in the underwear Olympics that is the combine. He was drafted in the 3rd round. Not to start right away. But, you know, the problem with Anthony Richardson, and I'm looking at it from a Bears lens, and I see what Caleb Williams did last year. He held the ball way too long. He got sacked almost as much as any quarterback in the history of the league. Half those were his fault. He also had the worst coaching staff that you could possibly have and the worst support and surround system that you could possibly have. And he still threw 20 touchdowns and 5 interceptions. Anthony Richardson came into the league with an all-pro running back, an offensive line that I think is overrated but is still a top half of the league offensive line. You look at some of the receivers that he has at this point in time, like none of them are Justin Jefferson, but Michael Pittman is solid. Josh Downs is okay.
Alec Pierce is
okay.
He's all right.
Are they just okay because Anthony Richardson sucks that bad? Maybe.
You know who the happiest guy in the Colts organization
Tyler
is?
Warren.
Thank you very much. Like, his career is going to be made with the fact that Anthony Richardson is no longer his starting quarterback. Now, we say that, and like you said, Josh, in 3 weeks it might be, but like Tyler Warren has to be the happiest dude on that roster. And honestly, Alec Pierce is mad because his pocketbook just took a hit. Because there's not going to be, hey, Alec, just be fast and run, and Anthony's going to throw it to you, sort of thing. And that's where you're going to get your stats.
Look at what the Colts even did in this draft. They drafted Riley Leonard, who can't throw it out of his shadow. Started multiple years in college, never could throw it out of his shadow. They drafted him in, the 6th round, maybe, somewhere around there.
Yeah, he was a very late.
Why wouldn't they take a chance on Shadur Sanders? Like, I'm not saying Shadur Sanders is ever going to amount to anything. But if you look at the college tape, which that's what shows if you can play or not, the tape don't lie and the stats don't lie. Why wouldn't they? They were as unsettled as anybody at the quarterback position outside of the Browns. Why wouldn't they taken him in the 3rd round or the 4th? Like, the Seahawks just signed Sam Darnold to a big deal, and they drafted Jalen Milroe in the 3rd round. Now, I'm not saying he's going to be any good, but it's something. It's something. And the Colts, like, for as well as you can build a roster, one thing that you don't do, trade a 1st-round pick for an interior defensive lineman. And unless you are about to win a Super Bowl. And what did Chris Ballard do? His biggest move. What's his biggest move? Trading a 1st-round pick for a defensive lineman and paying him $25 million a year.
And Sam Darnold, I mean, he's not making that $50 to $60 million a lot. He signed for $30 million a year. Yeah, I mean, that was a disaster. And Shadur Sanders in college, 134 touchdown passes, 27 interceptions.
That's absurd.
Yeah.
Do you think that the new owner, even though it's still the Irsay family, is it Carly Irsay?
Yeah.
Do you think she legitimately wants them to go 2-14?
Oh,
no.
See, I'm the exact opposite. I think it was written in his will. You do everything in your power to get another Manning back. And like, that is the ultimate dream right now that won't ever be spoken out loud, but that's the little thing they put under their pillow, and they hope the NFL fairy comes at night, and they leave a little Arch Manning token so that they know, hey, we're going to be just bad enough that you're going to have an opportunity to get Arch Manning. You can't tell me that that's not what they want to have happen.
At what record are you rooting for the Colts? Because as fans, like, even when I was a Bear, as a Bears fan, I wasn't like, oh, my God, I hope they freaking lose every game so they can draft Caleb Williams. I never thought that. But I got to a certain point in the season where I'm like, all right, we need to just freaking lose this game.
Well, you had them when we did our picks last week. You had them starting 0-, what was it?
It's like 0-4,
0-5, 0-6. They get to that point. But here's the thing. I'm on record as saying I'm not convinced that it's Arch Manning. I'm not saying that it's not going to be either. But if it gets to Tom, so
oh my God,
you had them 3-14 anyway.
Yeah. I had them starting out
0-5,
8 of 10, or 2-8.
So 2-8 at that point. I want the suck for Luck to come back, even though Andrew Luck is long retired. Suck for the number 1 draft pick, so that we've got our pick of the litter. Whoever. The cream will rise, as they say, whoever that is, because, all of the talking heads say this is a very strong quarterback class coming out. Here's, oh, God.
You know who it's going to be?
Fernando Mendoza.
Yes.
You know who it's going to be.
Yeah, and I know.
It's going to be Drew Allar.
That's exactly what I was just getting ready to say. That is my nightmare scenario.
No, it can't be. It can't.
All you're doing is drafting Daniel Jones Jr., aren't you?
Daniel Jones is more athletic than Drew Allar. It
won't.
My
gosh.
It won't be. I would say, because everybody wants the Colts to make the playoffs, right? Whether that's 9-8 or 11-5, you want the Colts to make the playoffs. Yeah. You're not rooting for them to have the number 1 overall pick because that's a miserable year.
Not at the beginning of the season, you're not.
So if they're 0-4, are you like, all
100%?
Right, let's just freaking.
Oh, because guess what? What they don't have is Joe Burrow. Like the Bengals last year were 1-4 1-5 at the beginning of the year,
Yep.
1-4, 1-5,
Five.
and guess what they did? They got to the last game of the season with a chance to get to the playoffs. Why? Because Joe Burrow was under center, and so. Hey, Daniel Jones is going to be an MVP this year, but he's not Joe Burrow. And I'm totally joking when I say that. Well, Ryan, you're the resident Colts fan here, so what's your take on the benching of Anthony Tiberius Richardson IV?
I don't even think he deserves your nicknames for him.
Okay. AR-15.
I think it was his job up until the Ravens game. And I think the first drive against the Packers, he showed promise. But, it's third string, which, oh well. He showed promise. I think he was 5 for 6. He had a couple decent little dump-offs. He had a nice third down run to get a first down. But then the second drive, you started to see what you always see. It was a little dump-off. I think it was Goodson or Gooden's. He overthrew him by 2 yards. And you started this, you could slowly see it. Look, if they're 0-4, but if they're playing decent football and they're only losing by a field goal every game, I'll take it. I do not think they're going to be any good. I mean, I was 6-11, I think.
Yeah.
I think, honestly, they might lose more than that. I don't hope they get the number 1 overall pick by any means, but I hope they don't also make the playoffs because I don't want to have to go through another year of this. Because if it goes down, they bench Daniel Jones, go to Anthony Richardson, and he makes the playoffs. Guess who has jobs? Everybody in the organization.
And Anthony Richardson.
But if
That's the
Anthony
scary
Richardson,
If he shows promise, I'll take it.
if they start 0-3 or 0-4 and he comes in and they make the playoffs, you have your quarterback at that point.
That's right.
So I always got into the argument with Dad when the Bears were trending in that number 1 pick. I'm like, hey, you rooting for the Bears to win today? Yeah. I'm like, dude, why? What? Like, at this point, even last year, like the Bears didn't have a chance to make the playoffs the last 2 weeks. I was rooting for them to lose because I knew come April that I was going, like, I wanted them to beat the Packers last year, the last game of the year. And they did on a walk-off field goal. And it was great for about a week. And then when April came around and I saw that their draft pick was 2 worse, I was upset. Like, draft capital matters. So, yeah.
And if you're a Bears fan, you have to feel good about how things have gone in the preseason because it looks like you have a quarterback. It looks like Ben Johnson's making an impact.
Yeah, and there is one thing that I want to talk about. I know we're going to get to the picks, but there is one thing that I do want to talk about. Should I bring that up and then we get to it?
You can, but can I just say, pipe down Bears fans on Twitter. Like they were blowing up Twitter last night because they beat the Chiefs in the preseason when the starters were on the field.
Preseason Kings, bro.
Patrick Mahomes was running circles around you, and then when he got off the field, like, oh hey, look, the Bears win. So Bears fans. I actually wish you well because I am a former Bears fan. Actually, I was more a Walter Payton fan, but I liked the Bears. I don't dislike the Bears. Actually, in the NFC, I root for the Bears. But pipe down. Knock it off.
It wasn't great, but
we won.
So so Ben Johnson said, "Hey, the offense wasn't good enough." And one difference that I've seen from the Bears this year, from the Bears in the past, and from the Colts is a couple weeks ago the Bears have a potential borderline Pro Bowler at right tackle that they drafted 9th overall, and Darnell Wright, and they were interviewing the offensive line coach, and he said, look, Darnell Wright hasn't been good enough. Darnell Wright, when he's locked in and focused, is a Pro Bowler, but it's not every single play. Like, not very – that was a breath of fresh air. Not very often are offensive line coaches especially allowed to go on the airwaves and call out a first-round pick. Instead of the Colts saying, well, Anthony, he's working really hard. No. Like, accountability matters. And
you know who that sounds like?
Who?
Coach Cignetti. He'd do it, baby.
And speaking of Coach Cignetti, I have something to bring up before the end of the show.
What? So which national title are you talking about? This year or next year?
Next year's.
Okay.
When The brothers win back-to-back national. Fernando wins, goes pro, and then Alberto comes in. But anyway, so the Bears, accountability matters, and that's what Ben Johnson. He's a professional. He's building a professional locker room, and I don't know. I'm not going to say that Caleb Williams is going to be a Pro Bowler, but some of the things that I've even seen in the scaled-down playbook that the Bears have are things that I haven't ever seen for the Chicago Bears. Like Ben Johnson knows what he's doing. They're going to use multiple tight end sets. Colston Loveland looks like he could be. He's not Brock Bowers or Travis Kelce or George Kittle, but he could be in that next tier. They've got weapons everywhere. Their defense looks solid. They got to stay healthy, but I'm outside because the NFC North is so good. I'm not sure they're going to make the playoffs, but I'm going to see for the first time in a very, very long time, if not ever, the Bears do have a franchise quarterback, and that makes me think that Caleb Williams is going to be in the top 12 quarterback discussion going into next year.
Does he become the first Bears quarterback to throw for over 4,000 yards?
Yeah. I don't know. Yeah, I think he will. It'll be close this year. They haven't had a 400-yard passer since Jim Miller in 1997 or 1998. In a league of passing, they haven't had a 400-yard passer. So let's get to these picks.
That's the perfect segue into our picks because we kept the Bears for last.
Oh, yeah.
Now, don't tell us what our picks were with the over-under because last week –
I forget what I had.
Good. That's what makes this more interesting. So last week, all four of us, unbeknownst to us, had picked the Bengals over, and we all had them over after going through the schedule. Josh and I think we had the over for the Colts, but then when we went through, we were under.
By just a game.
By just a game. And then you guys, I think, were both under were way under when we went through the picks. So, Tom, don't be cheating over there. We don't want to know. No. All right, so now we have the Chicago Bears. Game 1, they open up a Monday nighter. Division rival. They host the Minnesota Vikings on Monday Night Football. Since you are the resident Bears fan, Josh, how do they open the season at home against the Vikings?
That's a win, baby. That's Ben Johnson on the national stage, Caleb Williams coming out party. He's they're definitely beating the Vikings.
If this was opening up at Minnesota, it's a loss, but I think all the juice in the air, Caleb Williams back for a second year, Ben Johnson's home opener. I'm actually going to give the Bears
the trick
1-0 start.
The trick plays are going to be coming out of the woodwork in game 1.
Ryan?
I'm not going to say by a million because that'll jinx them, but I think they win convincingly. I'm going to go at least by 14.
Oh, yes.
2 tutties.
Plus 14. I hate to be a spoiled sport, but I'm going with a loss.
Don't do it just to be different, Tom. Is that what you really think?
Tell me it is really tough because I can't stand J.J. McCarthy.
No, it's only because you love J.J. McCarthy.
Maybe.
All right, game 2 the following week at the Detroit Lions. Sorry, Bears, you're coming back down to earth, and the Lions get the win.
The Lions take a step back this year. Ben Johnson, the student, bests the teacher.
At Detroit?
At Detroit. Ooh. And they get a win at Detroit.
Saucy.
Do we know what Detroit's going to be this year?
Do we know what they're going to be?
Yeah.
The Lions?
Well, yes, but are they going to be, they went 12-5 to 15-2. Do we know if they're going to even compete?
They lost both coordinators. I'm just saying, Ben Johnson, the magician.
Ben Johnson don't throw no passes, though.
Ben Johnson he made Jared Goff a good quarterback, dude.
Ryan, what do you think of that game?
I'm going to go, I'll go with a field goal loss. It'll be a close game.
Sorry, 0-2.
That's probably you guys are all smarter than I.
The next week, they are at home against the Dallas Cowboys. I think that is a convincing win because the Cowboys and the Colts might be fighting the Saints for the number 1 overall pick.
Yeah, that's a win. I have them 3-0. Yikes. That's
Ryan?
not good.
That is a monster win. Not by a million, but a monster win.
I'm going to give them their first win of the season there.
All right. The following week, they travel out to Las Vegas to take on the Raiders.
I'm going to give them a win.
All right. Ryan?
I'll go with a win. That's a win.
I'm gonna say just because I can't have nice things, and 4-0 just ain't. And I kind of have to make up for the Lions prediction. So I believe in Pete Carroll. I think Geno Smith's a pretty good quarterback. I'm gonna give him a loss.
Jason?
I think this is this is going to be about what the Bears are. It's going to be a lot of win then lose and another high off a win. I think they go on the road. Caleb Williams, he's good, but he's going to spend a little too much time out in Vegas. I think he loses.
Okay.
Then they win the bye week, and then they come off of the bye week for another bye, and they play at home against the Saints.
That's a win.
Oh
win.
my gosh.
Win. Yep. I don't think we have to spend much time on that.
Win.
Then the next two is when things get real saucy here for the Chicago Bears. The following week, they are at home, or they are away against the Ravens.
That's a loss.
That's a loss.
I don't think
Yep.
that's going to be particularly competitive either.
Okay.
And then the following week, the guy who will be in the argument for MVP again this year, they are at the Bengals. That's another loss.
I will take a loss there.
Although,
Loss.
have you seen, and we love to bang on the Colts, have you seen a roster that is more poorly constructed in one way than the Bengals?
Oh, I
Oh my
know.
God.
No, I'm going to say that's a win.
Like that. The way that the Bengals roster is constructed right now is the way that I play Madden. When I get to the offseason, I don't ever bother to even look at the defensive free agents or anything. It's all about the offense.
Yes.
And that's all that the Bengals are right now, too. Okay, the next week, they have another bye week as the Giants come to Chicago. That's a win.
That's a win.
You think Jackson Dart is starting by now?
Probably.
Yeah, for sure.
Could be, yeah.
I
If
will-
he's not, he should be.
Yo, that's a win.
Yep, I'll give them a win.
Then they travel to Minnesota to take on the Vikings. They beat them at home, but I think the Vikings avenge that first game loss.
Yeah,
and
that's
the
a
Vikings win. So that's a loss for the Bears.
tough place to play. They've never really had much success there, so that's a loss.
Take a loss.
All right.
This next one is not going to make Josh happy, although I know where he's probably going to pick. They host the Steelers. And kind of like we say about Patrick Mahomes, he's Patrick Mahomes until he's proved otherwise. Aaron Rodgers is the Bears' daddy. The Steelers go into Soldier Field and beat the Bears. Even though I think the Bears overall are better than the Steelers, it's still Aaron Rodgers, and he owns the Bears.
I already said that the Bears ended Brett Favre's career when he played for the Vikings, and Brett Favre owned the Bears. And I already said that the Bears are going to – Montez Sweat is going to sack Aaron Rodgers, concuss Aaron Rodgers, and there's not enough ayahuasca for Aaron Rodgers to do to come back from that. So that's a win for the Bears and the end of the Aaron Rodgers
Okay.
nightmare.
Ryan?
This is a loss, and Rodgers hits the discount double check.
Ooh.
I got a loss.
Brings it out of the cobwebs, huh? All right, then the following week on Black Friday, they take on the Philadelphia Eagles at the Eagles. That is a loss.
That's a loss.
Loss.
Okay.
Then they travel to Green Bay to take on the Packers. The fact that it's at Lambeau, because I think the Bears are better than the Packers this year. But when's the last time the Bears won at Lambeau?
Last end of the
When
season.
it mattered,
Oh,
when
that's-
everybody was playing.
I wasn't born.
I'm going to go with a loss on that one.
Ryan?
I'll go with a
Oh,
loss.
sorry, I have to.
I got loss.
I have to say this for our good friend Spencer Burkert, who's listening right now, and of course is excited because we were mentioning the Steelers, and you know, you mentioned how Aaron Rodgers is going to get knocked out of the NFL by Montez Sweat. He said T.J. Watt is going to hit Caleb Williams so hard it's going to knock his nail polish off. So
What do you have for that game,
he's got
Josh?
that going for him.
The Bears are going to go into Green Bay and get the win. The dawn of a new era.
Okay. Next is their fourth bye week of the season as the Cleveland Browns come to town.
Another win.
That's a win.
Dylan Gabriel starts this one.
Oh, my.
That's a win.
Yeah, me too.
Then on Saturday, December 20th, they host the Packers. I think they avenge that loss because this one is at Soldier Field and they get the win.
It's another win for the Bears. So we own the Packers at this point.
Ryan?
Oh gosh. I'll go with a win.
By the way, I'm going to have to
I
find
will
some
too.
losses here because it's getting ugly.
Then December 28th, they're traveling cross-country to play at San Francisco. I just don't think this is the 49ers of old. They've been one of the better rosters in the NFL over the last couple of seasons. I'm not saying they're going to be bad this year. They're just not the 49ers of old. I think this is the one true road trip I'm giving. That actually might be the only road game I'm giving the Bears a win in, but I'm going to go with a win on this one.
I'm going to go with the loss. I've seen too many 45-7 games out in San Francisco. I think I'm not saying that Christian McCaffrey stays healthy, but I think it's still tough to get out there. It's tough travel, so yeah, I'm going to give him a loss on that one.
I'm taking a loss there.
Caleb Williams is back in California. He almost gets to 400 yards. In a close game, it's a loss, though.
I was going to say, I think Ryan has Bears going to the Super Bowl, baby, but no.
And then the last week of the season, it will be on either January 3rd or 4th. That is TBD. And they host the Lions of Detroit.
Well, I've just kind of thinking about my predictions. I am going to have to give them a loss here. I think it's going to come down to them having to beat the Lions to go to the playoffs, and I think the Lions are going to be right there with the Bears. And I think the Lions are more battle-tested when it comes to winning important games in the regular season because the Lions can't do that in the postseason. But I will give that to the Lions.
Ryan?
I will go with a loss, but it won't be by much at all. I think the two games they play against the Lions will be a combined 8 points.
See, I'm struggling with this one simply because I think one of these two teams will already know their fate and have nothing to play for. But that will totally determine the outcome of the game. Although, which team is more petty, and I love sports petty like this, that they will already have a playoff spot wrapped up. The other team will need to win the game, and it gets them into the playoffs. So the team that already has their playoff spot wrapped up still plays their starters to spite the other team.
I think Ben Johnson would do that to Dan Campbell.
I'm sorry, Ryan, what did you say on that one?
Loss.
Okay. Jason?
Oh, man. I think at this point in the season, Detroit will already have things wrapped up. So I think the Bears will be playing everybody, and the Bears get the win.
So as Tom is counting this up, I know we have 7 minutes left. And I'll bring this up, and then we can talk about it after Tom gives us the predictions. Curt Cignetti has broken the SEC. Did you see what the SEC just came out and said they were going to do? Because Curt Cignetti and the Indiana football team has broken the SEC.
I sure did, and we will definitely talk about that after Tom gets his tallies done here. I'm real curious to see. My first curiosity is what the Bears' initial over/under was. I can't remember. I can look back here on the old Chat GPT.
I want to say it was
box
like
here.
8.5 or 7.5. Got to be somewhere around there.
Okay, let's see. That's Buffalo. Yeah, that's not what we want. The Jets, that's not what we
This is
want. It's
riveting
radio.
radio.
Yeah.
Talk through. Oh, here we go. Okay, so NFC North, the Bears was 8.5 was the number. Tom, what does everybody have their record at?
All right, Jason, you have them at 8-9. Josh has them
I
at
could
10
vote
and
for
7. Ryan has 7 and 10, and I have 6 and 11.
All right, and the number was 8.5. So, what did we all have on our initial prediction of the Chicago Bears 8.5 wins?
And you were at 8 and 9, Jason?
I had them at 8 and 9. I am the perfect shill for Vegas, aren't I not? Take all my money. Good Lord.
We didn't do that.
We did
The NFC.
We did the over-under for
No,
everybody.
we did for
didn't we?
AFC. We
Oh,
didn't do the NFC.
man. Okay, well, now we'll just have to forget the
Well, I'll
win
take the
total.
over. I knew I was going to say the over.
Man, at 8, honestly, at 8.5, before looking at the schedule, I probably would have taken the over. But going through the schedule, I feel really good about my pick. So,
Yeah, they've got some tough games in there. It's not an easy schedule. It's not a last place schedule in the division.
It's very unbalanced, though, because it feels like their tough games are tough games, and then their cupcakes are the worst teams
like
in the NFL.
their crossover games, their easy ones are like the Browns, the Steelers, Burkert.
The Giants.
Yeah, the Steelers.
But then to go back-to-back at Baltimore and at Cincinnati, man,
That's pretty rough.
That's like the kid with the magnifying glass and an anthill. Isn't
Yeah,
it? That's
that's-
what Roger Goodell was doing over there. Yes, Josh, to answer your question, I definitely saw that Coach Cignetti, again, the puppet master in Bloomington, he is playing quantum chess while the others are throwing jacks, is what we'll say. Because everybody wanted to bag on Indiana and Coach Cignetti for scheduling 3 non-Power 5 schools to start the season. And his comment was, I'm worried about the 9 conference games. We play 9 conference games. All I did was I took the SEC scheduling model, and he had the receipts on how the SEC schedule is so soft and the sheer number of FBS or sub-FBS teams that they play. And then all of them play, they're not Division II schools, but that week 14 or whatever it is.
FCS.
They play FCS schools.
Yeah.
Every one of them across the board. So now, Tom, we'll let you do the honor. What did the SEC just announce yesterday that they're going to do?
They felt the pressure. They're going to 9 conference games, and I read somewhere that they also have to schedule 1 game against either a Big 12 or ACC opponent.
And see, I'm curious if it will be Notre Dame included in that ACC,
Yeah.
even though they're not technically
I would
in
say
the
they
ACC.
I'd say they would be included in that.
Yeah.
You know, the best thing is it wasn't Ryan Day. It wasn't Jim Harbaugh. It wasn't
James
Franklin. It wasn't Lincoln Riley.
Dan Lanning.
It wasn't Dan Lanning. It wasn't any of those guys. It wasn't the legacy. It wasn't Kirk Ferentz. It was Curt Cignetti, who broke the SEC, broke Paul Feinbaum, broke ESPN, broke everything, because they are so upset that Indiana and their strength of record, which was top 10 in the country last year, broke them, and they could not fathom that little Indiana, the historically worst program ever in college football, broke up their party.
It was the fact that IU won, and it took a guy like Curt Cignetti who not afraid to tell the truth. He's not afraid to talk trash, but that was not talking trash. That was talking facts. Like I said, he came with receipts. He didn't just say, well, our record is what it was, and we won the games and blah, blah, blah. He had receipts for how the sheer number of SEC schools and the number of games that they play against these teams that are just like the teams that IU has scheduled. And as we've talked about before, and there was I just saw it this morning on Twitter, Curt Cignetti had a press conference yesterday talking about Old Dominion and talking about the Sun Belt Conference. And he, again, had receipts. Ask all of these schools, and it was every big-name school in the Big Ten and the Big 12 and the SEC that Sun Belt teams have played and beaten. So don't talk to him, because he coached in it. Don't talk to him about how this first game of the year is going to be a cakewalk and it's going to be a cupcake. The only reason it's going to be a cakewalk is because IU's just going to be better. It's not because Old Dominion's going to be bad. It's because IU is going to be better because they're well coached. It's a well-oiled machine. They're on the march for their second straight playoff appearance, and I'm here for all of it.
I mean, IU lost to the national champion and the national champion runner-up. They had the two best losses, if that's a thing, in college football. And they weren't Illinoising everybody. They weren't squeaking by Purdue by 1 point in quadruple overtime or whatever it was. They were beating everybody by 50. So Curt Cignetti, thank you for coming to Indiana. Scott Dolson and all the donors, thank you for bringing Curt Cignetti here, because he changed IU football and he changed college football landscape because he broke Paul Feinbaum and the SEC shills.
Yeah, and they said now that they're going to, the selection committee is going to include strength of schedule, which I thought they already did anyway. I know they have strength of record
for this
but
upcoming
now,
season.
Yes, they're adding in strength of schedule, but based on what you guys have said, it's kind of like 6 of one, half dozen of the other, because if your strength of record is very strong, you would think that would also mean that your strength of schedule is pretty strong.
I hate the fact that they throw that
They're
out there.
looking for reasons to not put IU in.
100%.
Absolutely. But the reason I don't like strength of schedule would be like last year. On their schedule, IU had the defending national champions and the defending national runners-up. It wasn't IU's fault that both of those teams were average last year. But that hurts your strength of schedule.
Right.
Because those teams don't hold up their end of the bargain.
And played the national champion last year really tough.
Exactly. And so, teams like that schedule like IU now are going to have to hope, okay, we hope we destroy Old Dominion and then they run the table and win their conference and things like that.
What if Dante Moore isn't the answer at Oregon and they're 8-4 this year?
Yeah.
I mean, they're starting out preseason top 5. That's not IU's fault. It's not IU's fault that Nebraska started losing every close game and IU beat them by 50. Like that, they don't want IU at the party.
The SEC is upset that they're not the king of the party anymore.
Yeah, I love it.
And like we talked about last week, I think Paul Feinbaum said that if an SEC school doesn't win it this coming season, he's leaving the country.
Love it.
It's like, please, somebody.
Come on, Ohio State.
Yes.
Paul Feinbaum and the SEC has to be a little bit nervous because 3 out of the top 5 preseason are all Big Ten teams again.
And last thing, I know we have to go, but ESPN does the FPI. So they released one in April, and then they released one a couple weeks ago. 2 teams moved up in the FPI without playing a game, without any significant injury news. SEC schools. 2 teams moved down, Big Ten schools.
Imagine
that. And that FPI goes into what they look at for playoff selection.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. Doesn't matter. IU's going to be undefeated, and they can't keep them out.
Just win,
Beyond
baby.
the Game brought to you by Schutte Excavating, Gillenhow Funeral Home, Batesville Chrysler Dodge Jeep, Buy-Rite Auto, Decatur County Recycling, and Russ Hubler Ford. For Ryan Higginbotham, Tom Fleming, and Josh Lee, this is Jason Simpson. We'll see y'all next week.